Good afternoon, my name is Frida Garcia and today I'll be presenting the art of paper folding and its benefits to education. Before I begin talking about my research, background information regarding this topic is essential to understand the real importance of origami. Origami is a traditional Japanese art of paper folding that is often said that originated in that country, but in reality it originated in ancient China right after the creation of paper. Diana Hinders, in her article, The Traditional Art of Paper Folding, explains that it was used mainly for funeral services where the family of the deceased would fold golden nuggets and then burn them, believing that it would help their family in the underworld. As time went on and paper became more affordable, the use of origami expanded. While in Japan and in China it was still used for ceremonial purposes, in Germany, it was being used for education. In the article History of Origami, Conrad explains that it was easier to teach mathematical concepts with origami for the first graders in Germany. This method of education was later introduced to Japan in the Meiji period and has been adapted ever since, and it's still being used. Now origami is mainly used for recreational purposes. Many are looking for new uses of origami, mainly in the fields of science, education, and medicine. For this reason, my research is essential to fully understand the potential of origami. In order to understand why this study seeks to analyze the impact of origami in a learning environment, it is crucial to look at already existing research regarding these subjects. One of them, since this field of study is still relatively new, the research was very limited. One of the research that I read about was one created by Professors R.M. Peddle and S.B. Gatwell, which used origami to teach the students engineering curves. What they did was test a group of 30 students of engineer who were already taught engineering curves, the topic, test them, and they saw that there was an 8% passing grade. After that, they taught the students the lesson again, but this time using origami, and saw a 70% passing rate right after that. Still, both professors explained that they can't really say that origami was the true factor that impacted the increase in passing rate between the students. Another study that I also looked into was the Oxford Academy study, where they taught deaf students and hard of hearing students geometry with origami. The students were having a hard time understanding the mathematical concepts, so they used the topic and then made it into origami, and saw that the students were more focused and that they participated more and that they were understanding the concept a lot more. These two studies propose that the use of origami can be beneficial in multiple ways, but they do have a learning gap. First of all, it only focuses on a small group of students and only focuses on the subject of mathematics instead of expanding it more to other subjects. For this reason, my research will fill that research gap. I will be focusing in testing their mental health, their stress levels, how it helps them increase their grades in their core classes, and their memory. My test subjects will be seniors from El Paso High because senior year is the hardest year for the students and it's full of stress, so I want to see if origami allows them to have better coping skills. For this reason, I will be researching, will EPHS seniors perform better in school if they practice origami? This would help, this is an important research because it will allow for schools to understand if origami can be implemented into the learning activities so that the students can be both less stressed and perform better. My hypothesis and my method were based off the two studies that I explained earlier. So my hypothesis, based on the two research is that I believe that the students who participate in the origami group will be able to perform better in schools and subjects such as math and science, as seen in the other research, and as well as develop their memory and be less stressed. To prove my hypothesis, I gathered a group of 20 high school seniors and separated them both into the origami group and into the non-origami group. Since memory is such an essential part of learning and education, I wanted to develop the origami. I wanted to see if origami allowed them to develop that skill better. So I tested both groups, my control group, which was the non-origami, and my origami group, to use as a baseline. After that, I asked both of the groups for their grades, but since it was the beginning of the grading period when I began the research, the teachers had not posted grades yet. Then after the first test, I instructed my origami group to practice origami for at least 10 minutes each day, and then each day before I would test them back again. I sent them the origami I wanted them to practice, and then an example would be the origami dog face that you can see over here. Then after a week, I tested both groups again with a different test, same amount of images, same amount of time, and asked them to recall the objects and measure the accuracy of their memory. Then I asked my origami group to answer a survey regarding their mental health and how they were feeling after performing the origami. I would repeat this process 3 more times for a time of 4 weeks, so my whole study lasted a whole month. In this table, I show my findings, and here you can see the 4 tests for both my origami group and non-origami group, as well as the accuracy. The first 2 tests I decided to let it be easy with 20 images, but as time went on, I increased the amount of images to see if their memory got better. To truly understand that table, I averaged the values and put it in a percentage. In the first test, both groups of students had a 45% accuracy rate, but on the second test, you could already see the difference. The non-origami group increased their accuracy by only at 10%, while my origami group, their accuracy increased by 15%. At memory test number 3 and number 4, their memory could be seen that had developed even more. My non-origami group, their accuracy only increased by 4% from 55 to 59, while my origami group, their accuracy increased from 60 to 68. Another important thing to note is that my origami group, at this point, were telling me details about the images, saying the green bird, the red apple, the purple flower. They were visualizing the images. On the last test, my origami group were also telling me more details, and were the only ones who were able to see the 2 trains that were exactly the same, just one with color and one without it, as well as the arrow, which was missed by my non-origami group. The non-origami group accuracy only increased from 59% to 64%, while my origami group increased from 68 to 80%. Regarding their grades, as explained earlier, since it was the first grading week, they did not have any grades, but at the last week, their grades in both math and science can be seen to be different than my non-origami group. The social studies and English group, they appear to have the same grades, so in a way, I did not see them because they were so equal, so therefore origami had no impact on those 2 topics. On average, my origami group had a score of 96, while my non-origami group had an average, a score of 80. Now regarding their mental health, 88% of the origami group from students say that their stress level decreased. 56% said that they were more focused in classes. 66% said that their memory had improved. 80% said that they enjoyed creating the origami figures, and 55% said that they believed that origami helped them in school. But to better understand the true link between origami and education as a whole, there has to be a deeper analysis. Um, Regarding the difference between the memory test, and the origami group was able to develop their memory skills due to the release of a chemical that stimulated both hemispheres of their brain. In his study, Dr. Cipra explained that the hand-to-hand coordination sent impulses to both sides of the brain, allowing the chemical to travel through the memory and visual parts of it. So that's why my origami students were able to have better accuracy, as well as explain in more detail the images that they saw. Regarding the grades, it also has to, thanks to the origami figures being different shapes and sizes, Dr. Cipra also explains that this is because they could visualize the concepts, and it was easier for them to understand them since they were seeing them in shapes. Lastly, regarding mental health, once again, since they were the use of their hands as well as their brain together stimulated and developed that side of the brain, which can also be accountable for the memory. But not only that, but when they were doing the figures, serotonin was being released in the brain. And that's why Mr. Lockhart explains that it is because that's why the students felt happier, livelier, and more peaceful and less stressed. Still, what my research shows the true link between education and origami, there were many limitations that could have affected the data. Some of them being their personal life, the difficulty of the classes, and if they're following the instructions of the experiment. Since it wasn't a controlled environment, I couldn't really control what the students were going through or their personal feelings, which could have affected them during the day that I tested their memory, or whether I tested their memory and their health. Not only that, when many of my students were taking different classes, some were taking calculus, some were taking calculus 1 and 2, while others were taking statistics, which may have played a big impact on how the results of their grades played out. Lastly, since it wasn't a controlled environment, I couldn't always be on the lookout if my origami group were doing the 10 minutes that I had asked them to do. For this reason, there might have been an impact, whether they did it or did not, that might have played a role in the accuracy of the memory test. But in the end, in conclusion, the results of my study did show that my hypothesis was right at some extent. Well, as I revisit it and I think about it again, origami did not impact the grades of the 4 core classes, only in mathematics and in science. Well, in social studies and in English, as I had believed, they did nothing. Not only that, but it did prove that there's a link between education, grades, stress levels, and memory. Since I didn't do it in a closed environment, my results are inconclusive. Still, with this in mind, the end result of my research did can be used to further the study of origami, as well as to see if it has an impact on students, as well as to see if it can be implemented in schools to help the students out, allow them to feel less stressed and have a more engaging study when doing subjects such as math and science, proved by multiple research and mine. Another thing that had to be noted that I forgot to say in my findings was that the students who performed origami said that they were more focused, and that was because of the release of the chemical of the serotonin that made classes more fun and the topics more fun. so they were more inclined to participate in it. All in all, my study, it wasn't, my findings weren't completely true. It still served as another research that can further the true potential of origami. Thank you.